Constantine, Christian imperialism in general. Before Constantine, Christianity was persecuted to the utmost. All right, right. I mean, if you know anything, just the smallest amount about Christian history, there was a pivot point in history where the emperor of Rome looked and decided to become a Christian himself. I forgot the actual name of the symbol that he allegedly saw in the sky, but the translation was in this name, in this sign you shall conquer. It was a cross with another, I forgot the exact name of it, but Constantine took Christianity from being a subversive religion, one that was persecuted because of how it challenged authority. And let's be clear. Christianity historically was not persecuted just because they didn't like Christians. Christianity was persecuted because of what they were teaching was detrimental to the throne, to empire. It was subversive. It challenged authority. It challenged financial, political power. It challenged economic power. It challenged everything. And it challenged in a way that it created martyrs. People were not going to waver on that. They were willing to die for what they believed. And so what do you do when you have an ideology that is dormant in your society? I'm sorry, dormant is the absolute worst word, the absolutely incorrect word. When a ideology is active and flourishing, even if it's underground, it's flourishing, it's spreading, and it's challenging the authority of the crown. It's challenging the authority of the emperor. It's challenging the political order. It's challenging the economic order, because this is what Christianity was. How do you stop that when you can't kill it out? Because for every Christian that they killed, they became a martyr, and they were willing to die and to lay down their lives for what they believed. How do you stop that? You co-opt that. You take it from being a subversive power that serves the underprivileged, that serves the downtrodden, this ideology, this faith that challenges the system and takes care of the least of these, that looks at the rich people and says it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of the needle than for a rich person to get into heaven. You take it from that and you transform it into something that services power, that services empire, that services capitalism, that serves the very thing that it was in its inception opposing. The very thing that it opposed, you now put it into power and allow it to serve. And you allow the person in charge, the king, whoever, it doesn't matter, king, emperor, president, all the same. You allow the person who's in charge to be the voice on this earth of God. And so anything that the king now says do, hell, at the time, anything that the Pope said do, or later, anything that the Pope said do, was fine, because they are the voice of God and they are doing the will of God. And if you challenge, remember what Paula White said, if you challenge authority, then you're challenging God. They took a perfectly subversive religion that was serving the weak, the literal Bible. What is it? I have to think of the scripture on the fly. In Luke, I believe, where it says, the Spirit of in Isaiah, the Old Testament version, says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has sent me to preach the gospel to the poor and to set at liberty the captives, to set the captives free, right? You take it from a religion that serves the downtrodden, that serves today who would be homeless, the poorest people among us. You take it from that and you transform it into something that simply is whatever we need it to be to get our political and economic agenda accomplished. You take it from being a faith and turning it into an ideology of imperialism. And that is what actually happened. Whether that was the motivations, there are historians that actually argue vehemently one side or the other whether or not that was the actual motivation of Constantine. But if you take that flashpoint and you look at today, Republicans, conservatives even compare Donald Trump to Constantine. And they think that, never mind his moral immorality, he's going to do something great for the faith and for religion. And what is it that he's doing? What is it that Constantine, you take it from this place of subversion, this place of challenging authority, and you make it complicit with authority. You make it the tool through which you conquer. You make it the tool through which you spread your empire. You make it the justification for slavery. You make it the justification for capitalism. You make it the justification for everything that the Bible actually preaches against. And you have an ideology that no longer challenges authority. You have an ideology that serves authority. And this is the only lens through which you can understand how evangelicals today can look at Donald Trump and say, oh, we'll give him a mulligan. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because he's doing what we need him to do. The only way you can look at that and say it makes sense is if you view it through the lens of Christian imperialism and realize they don't really care about anything else that the Bible offers except the ability to control the minds of the masses and to serve political and economic power. So long as we can do that, and we use, how do we do it? We use the fear of homosexuality. We use the disgust with abortions. We use that today in 2018, since 1980, we use that over a 38-year period to convince Christians that the only real way for you to participate politically is to serve and work with the Republican Party. So that means that no matter who the Republican president is, he's doing the will of God. And no matter how moral domestically, because internationally, Obama was the face of American imperialism, but domestically, no matter how moral and how much of a family man, and no matter how much he went to church, no matter how many times we literally have on record this man saying Merry Christmas, which is completely irrelevant because Christ wasn't even born in December, no matter how many times he did all of the things that you have been telling us were important for Christians and everyone in America to do, it doesn't matter. He is immoral because he's a Democrat. And no matter how immoral this Republican president is, it doesn't matter because he's a Republican and he's doing what we need him to do, which can only be translated into making Christianity serve economic and political power, Christian imperialism. And this is why I say, if you are a Donald Trump supporter at this point, you are barely a Christian. I don't want to say that you're not a Christian because I'm not God. I can't judge you. Well, I can't give final judgment, but I can judge you right now. You're barely, you need to really take a step back and consider all of the things that you tell your children as a Christian, all the things you preach in your church as a Christian, all the things that you're supposed to preach as a Christian. How can you actually be a Donald Trump supporter right now? Forget about the surrounding political issues, right? Forget about all the things that I think that he's doing wrong that you probably think he's doing right. Right? Let's set that aside for a second. Just the character of the man. How can you stand behind a man? Forget about the fact that he didn't know 2 Corinthians was 2 Corinthians. He called it 2 Corinthians. Forget about the fact that he said that he can't even remember if he's ever asked for forgiveness. And then you have to forget about the fact that that is literally the cornerstone of our faith. Forget about all that. Look at his character. You will know a tree by the fruit that it bears. That's another scripture, right? I'm rusty, but I have not forgotten, right? You'll tell a tree by the fruit it bears. How could you be a Christian and get out here and say that you still stand behind a man that has shown himself to be completely and entirely bankrupt in terms of morality? He's morally bankrupt. He has no desire to be anything like Christ would be. He has a desire to serve only one thing, and that's his ego. And yet you as a Christian will ignore and wash away and forget everything that the previous president was in terms of character, family man, his words, the way he chose his words, the things that he would say to help people and not harm people and not attack people, and the pettiness that did not exist with Obama that is the entire existence of Donald Trump, and you still call yourself a Christian. You really need to check your credentials. You honestly, you need to go back to the old, you need to go way back and actually question and ask yourself, what do you want from your faith? Seriously, do you honestly only want your religion to serve political and economic power? Because at the core of it, that's it. That's it. It's not about same-sex marriage. It's never been about same-sex marriage. It's never been about abortion. It's never been about those two things. Those two things, which are the driving force behind evangelical participation, those two things are just useful devices to keep you angry and to keep you fearful. They are never going to service you on those issues. And even if they did, how many abortions do you think Donald Trump paid for? But I digress. The point is, those two issues that are the galvanizing, the flashpoint for the majority of the participation of evangelical Christians are not even at the core of the leadership of Christian evangelicals. They do not care about sexual morality. Never mind the fact that so many of them are sexually immoral themselves. I don't care about that. The point is that they are trying to keep your faith as a useful tool for empire and capitalism. That's the only way you can explain how all of this makes sense.